Here we have the world's most confusing melee necromancer. He likes to run around anywhere there are skeletons. He likes big skeletons, little skeletons, skeletons that he doesn't have to kill, but are just normal skeletons. His hat is a skeleton, his shield is a skeleton, his armor is a skeleton. Speaking of that hat and that shield, they're both dream rune words, and this is my first dream build that I've ever been able to afford. The loot goblin and tradery have been good to me this season. Now, not many people know this, but a direct result of playing a loot goblin is this little thing called karma. Sure, I managed to get 3 jaw runes from my ill-gotten gains as a grub in chaos, but I also rolled 3 of the absolute worst dreams in the history of Diablo 2. Helm, 5 resists. Shield, 5 resists. Other helm, 8 resists. Well, if I can't resist anything in this game, I'm sure as hell gonna make it so nothing else can resist me. This build uses all of the sunder charms as a demonstration of power. I also have 1 cursed lifer GC because I want this build to be even more confusing. His main skill is confusion after all. It's maxed out for an area that's almost 2 times the screen size. Every battle with him is like jumping into the bar fight scene in Roadhouse. His weapon of choice is the Crescent Moon Sword for minus 35% to enemy lightning resist, but also that static shock, which paired with his best bud's Crescent Moon, there's enough static to put Micro Center out of business. Between that and the tick damage from the 3 dreams, does some pretty decent AoE. The main thing that keeps this Necro safe is his bone armor that surrounds his bone armor, made in some bone weave armor. He maxed out Bone Prison and Bone Wall to synergize the level 15 Bone Armor and Bone Spear procs that have a chance to cast, keeping this fella fairly safe when things get personal. It comes out to about 700 magic damage per Bone Spear and recurring Bone Armor that can take around 850 damage before it breaks. It rarely does. What's he wear on his feet? Gore Riders. You're gonna get a little bit gory if you're looking for skeletons. And the open wounds, crushing blow, and deadly strike doesn't hurt. For a belt, I decided to go with Arachnid's Mesh because it gives +1 to skills, and in 1 piece of equipment, it helps him hit that 18% faster cast rate breakpoint, so he gets 13 frames, which definitely helps when you're spamming Confuse as much as possible. Now, some of you might notice that Arachnid's Mesh comes with some Venom charges, which at first I was really excited about, being melee necro. It's like, yeah, I'll take any extra damage I can get from swinging a sword. But due to some poison bug and poison length, it ended up being less overall damage if I used these charges. Maybe someone in the comments can explain in way better detail than I can. For my gloves, I decided to go with Ghoulhide Heavy Bracers because they give almost 200% damage to undead and over 700 attack rating against undead. And boy, do I need the attack rating. Necro's chance to hit is awful. So with the Necromancer's attack rating being really low and just not having a good chance to hit things, I decided to go with an Obedience Thresher on my weapon switch. 1, because it looks like a badass Grim Reaper Scythe on a Necromancer, and 2, it has a 30% chance to cast level 21 enchant when you kill an enemy, and this gives you not only a fire damage bonus, but it also bumps your attack rating for over 10 minutes, which is enough time to do any run. And while we're on the topic of attack rating, my ring is a Ravenfrost. 240 attack rating, 19 dexterity, and can't be frozen. Really can't go wrong here when you're making a melee character. For my other ring, I decided to go with a Carrion Wind. You get 10% chance to cast level 10 Poison Nova when you're struck. You can get struck a fair amount. You get an 8% chance to cast level 13 Twister on striking. So every now and then when you're hitting things, you can get a little bit of stun. It has 6% life stolen per hit, defense against missile. If you're feeling really fancy, you can summon that level 21 Poison Creeper for even extra damage, but keep in mind it does die a fair amount, so get your golds ready for that repair. And it fit thematically. Carrion Wind. I mean, come on. Dead bodies in the wind? It's right up this guy's alley. For his amulet, he uses a Cat's Eye amulet. 30% faster run walk, 20% increased attack speed, more defense, defense against missile, and 25 to dexterity, which really helps with that attack rating.
It's Capside, call the best of the best to get rid of your pest.
To push it a little bit further and make him that much more confusing, he also doesn't run a Tome of Town portal, much like the Loot Goblin. Instead, he decides to run individual scrolls that are placed into a belt slot. Because, let's be honest, I'm running 1 area, 2 areas per game, and then escape, make the new game. You may also notice that in order to make room for all of these Sunder charms, his Heraldric Cube has to stay in his stash, which I never meant to be offensive because I'm sure it's irritating some of you, but only confusing. Originally, I was going to go with the Fire Golem to get a little bit of extra aura damage, but I decided to go with an Iron Golem instead because I have a really bad habit of hoarding subpar uniques that I think I'm going to use in a build, and they just kind of sit there and clutter up everything. So he was a good way to clear all of that out. This Necromancer's best bud bone hunting friend Wiglaf is an Act 5 Frenzy Barbarian mercenary who uses a Crescent Moon Phase Blade, which has that static field. He uses a Mythical Sword Plague, which has a chance to cast lower resist when striking and more Poison Nova damage on striking, which really helps with damage over time. And he's got that 17 cleansing aura, which helps me not be amplified damage all of the time. For his helmet, he has a Dream-Spired Helm, which I originally thought was a winged helm. So I rolled it for myself and realized that it had a 192 strength requirement, and I had to roll a different helm. So I have a Bone Visage now. That's why it's not ethereal, it's not min-maxed. His armor is a Duress Bone Weave, which the base defense on this Bone Weave was 666. You can do the math if you want. And he's pretty good. He's pretty good best bud when it comes to hunting skeletons. So how do I play this Necromancer? I try to stay on brand and run areas like Mausoleum, Crypt, Sewers, Jail, the Pit, anywhere that has skeletons that he can take out. He only has 39 magic find, but magic finding has never really been a core reason of why I play Diablo. I've been more of a fan of playing and finding items as a byproduct rather than making the loot my intended goal. Plus, you can still find jaw runes with 39 magic find, so there's that. So he'll normally charge into a crowd of monsters that are so confused as to what they're looking at. They'll begin to argue with one another. Just make a poison necro! Why waste stream on a necromancer? It doesn't have maximum amount of synergy. Just make a paladin instead! They will argue about how necromancers have a melee skill called Poison Dagger and to just use that. Or using all of the Sunder charms at once is dumb and it makes the game harder and your runtime's longer. Why won't you max out your resistances? While they're doing this, I'm just crushing skulls with Wiglaf and we're having a grand old time.